6, 1973. Hundreds of Egyptian tanks surge across the Suez Canal in a bold and shocking surprise attack on Israeli forces.
The desert is moving like an earthquake.
Egypt strikes deep into the Sinai Desert, determined to avenge their humiliating defeat in the Six-Day War of 1967.
What has been taken by force has to take it back by force.
Caught off guard and outnumbered almost 5 to 1, the Israelis find themselves in a desperate fight for survival.
They're facing a very different Egyptian army. This time, they're in for a very rude awakening.
Fighting on two fronts with the Egyptians and Syrians, this 18-day battle will determine the fate of Israel and the entire Middle East.
There is no retreat. We have only one alternative: victory.
The Sinai Peninsula, a vast desert in western Egypt, separating Israel and the Egyptian heartland. It is one of the most lonely and desolate places on the planet. But in 1967, this was the stage for one of the swiftest and most dramatic victories in the history of warfare. June 5th, 1967. Israel launches a preemptive strike against Egyptian forces, massing along its borders, catching them completely off guard. In less than a week, Israeli forces seize the entire Sinai Peninsula, and they dig in, building fortifications all along the Suez Canal. For the Egyptians, it is a humiliating blow.
Someone came to my house, take half of it. Can you live with someone in your house, bother you every day and tell you what you're gonna do about it? And this is the day when we decide to do something about it.
As soon as the 1967 war ends, Egyptian President Gamal Abdel Nasser begins completely rebuilding his battered army.
It took Egypt a good 6 years of training, of straight, hard training. Restructuring of all the system in the army.
By the fall of 1973, it is a force of over 300,000 well-trained men, 2,000 artillery pieces, and 2,400 tanks. But it will take more than just men and machines to beat the battle-hardened Israelis.
The Egyptians know that they need to catch Israel by surprise. The Egyptians develop a plan. They develop one of the most remarkable deception campaigns of the last 100 years. They practice forming up their units, driving to the canal, and then they practice the canal crossing itself. And they do it over and over and over again. So that over the course of time, the Israelis just come to expect it. It just becomes a part of the scenery.
Beyond that, the Israelis have grown complacent in their defensive positions and believe the Egyptians pose no serious threat.
Since the Six-Day War, after such a famous victory, the Israeli army became to be too arrogant.
They were under the illusion that the Israeli tanks are superior and that the Egyptians don't know how to fight. And that was one of their biggest mistakes.
In October 1973, all the Israeli Defense Force has to defend its 125-mile Sinai front are 18,000 men, 100 artillery pieces, and less than 300 tanks. A tiny defensive force, woefully ill-prepared for battle. And on October 6, 1973, Egypt and their Syrian allies launch an immense two-front offensive against Israel.